the days after Purim. These are propitious days. They're the end of one year and the beginning of the next on the 1st of Nisan. It's truly the snake biting its own tail. The head of the year as Nisan 1. The beginning of the Exodus from Egypt, the going out of Mitzrayim. Truly propitious days. These days after the 16th of Adar, this year of Adar 2, and Nisan, for some opinions, Nisan 1, we start not eating chametz. Why? And this whole thing of the going out of Egypt on Pesach. But what we really do every day, and that's why I'm giving this shiur this morning muse, is that every time we put on tefillin, we are leaving Mitzrayim, we're leaving Egypt. And why is that? We put it on the Yad Hazacha. We put it on the left hand. And in the evening version of the Ten Commandments, Hashem comes out of Egypt he comes out of Mitzrayim with a Yad Hazacha, with the left hand, and this is a memorial of coming out of Egypt. And what does the putting on tefillin and what does the concept of coming out of Egypt mean? Mitzrayim really means one's own personal limitations. When one comes out of Egypt, when one comes out of Mitzrayim, comes out of the Narrows, they come out of their own personal limitations. And what are these personal limitations? They're your personal limitations. Not necessarily mine, but your personal limitations. Each of us has this spark, this personal limitation that they have to overcome. Moshe did that by leading them out of Egypt. What is your personal limitation? In a deeper sense, what is mine? I care about mine. Why? Because the world was created for me. And until you understand that for yourself, then you're only fooling. And so each time we put on tefillin, every morning when we put on tefillin, we're coming out of Egypt. We're coming out of our personal limitations. It gives us strength. The lowest depths of impurity we come out of, and we get strength by this. And this is the Jewish opus itself, to gain strength, personal strength in doing what you feel is your personal kernel, your seed. And these days from Purim and what I call the 16th of Purim, which are through the 29th of Adar, these days are the highest days of the year because they were the lowest days of the year. They ended the year. And then we go to the new year. And this new year is how we come out. This lowness is echoed in Purim itself because we were supposed to die, and then there's a turnaround. So Purim is an echoing of Pesach. And there's a mixture of the dates in the original Purim story with Pesach. Purim, in a sense, is Pesach. And how do we know this? Because of the letter Pei. They both start with the letter Pei, and both have to do with the mouth, which is the letter Pei. Why? Because we we have a Purim story that's spoken. And we hear it, spoken from the mouth. And then we have the Haggadah, that's read on Pesach. So there's a parallel here between Megillah Esther and the Haggadah itself. Meditate on these two things. Remember, the first 12 days of Nisan are the 12 months of the year in microcosm. What happens to you on each day of the 12 months of Nisan will happen to you in that particular month of the year. So let's say the first day of Nisan, whatever happens to you then, that will happen to you in the whole month. That will be your symbol for the whole month of the year. What happens to you on the 6th day of Nisan will happen to you in the month of Elul that year. So the year really starts on Nisan 1. And that's why for some they don't eat hummus from then. And the real flavor of Pesach really starts on Nisan. Because on the full moon it's manifested, but on the new moon the seed is set. And that's why these days from Purim to Nisan 1 are tremendous days of reflection and pulling the true essence out. Please remember that the true essence is coming out during these days, the days after Purim until we go to the 1st of Nisan. And those are the days we're in right now. And for men, putting on of tefillin. Remember, it's the left hand, the Yad HaZachar. Why is it the left hand? And this is what we see. And this is just a few minutes of morning muse, and as I see, I have no viewers, which is beautiful. Because this shiur is for me. If you want to repeat it, you can see it on the replay. And the whole idea of this being the darkest days of the year. The glimmer of light happens on Purim itself, where there's a turnaround, and you have to understand that because the true turnaround comes on Pesach. The true turnaround comes every time you put tefillin on as a memorial of coming out of Egypt. And what are those? What's the Egyptian? What is Egypt besides limitations? Limitations are also when the soul is not in the body. The body is the revelation of the completion for the soul. And because the body can do action. And so this embodiment that happens when one wakes up. And the first thing one does when one prays is to put on tefillin before prayer. And this is what's done when one wakes up, because one is renewed within the body, and the soul comes in, and the new soul comes in. And he's leaving. The soul has left its limitations of its higher realms to come into its lower realms. And these are deep limitations. Only the body can reveal its true essence. The body of the soul as a total completion. And that's why in the resurrection of the dead, it will not only be by souls, but there'll be a second part of that resurrection of the dead where the souls will be inhabiting bodies again. And that's why the tefillin is made up of animal skins to represent the animal soul, which is shown to be higher than the godly soul because it's embodied. And this is the story of Pesach, and this is the story of Purim into Pesach, and these days between Purim and Pesach, which are transitioned on the 1st of Nisan. And so we're in this before the transitioning period, before the change. So sensate what's happening to you at this time, because there's only bracha that can happen, even if it's an apparent curse. And so here we are in a deep level of essence, a deep level of revelation, if one is sensitive to its pulsations